back again. This is our second Facebook Live event. It's Jim Carson here from Blackstock Ford Lincoln and Bad Dog Modification and Detailing Center, both, of course, here in Orangeville. Our first one, you recall, was to celebrate the Mustang's anniversary, April 17th. And I'm really in my comfort zone when we're talking about Mustangs. And now I'm stretching my comfort zone, and I've got two great guests here today to switch it up. And as you probably already know, we're going to talk about overlanding and a lifestyle that is hot and it's getting a lot of attention. And with everything that's going on, we really think that this is going to be even more popular kind of a lifestyle event, and that is an opportunity for recreation. My guest today is, first of all, is Sean Angues, and Sean is the CEO of Overland Vehicle Systems, up and down air, King four-wheel drive, and he is a guy that's been in this industry and off-road for more years than he wants to admit, but he's going to tell us a little bit about his background. We're going to have the opportunity to ask his questions. And then I have George Lathouris. Did I pronounce that right, George?
Close enough.
All right. George and I have always just called you George. George is the Global Vice President of Sales for Warn Winches. As you know, the brand Warn has a total domination, really, I think, and from my perspective as a retailer, of the current winch business. And certainly he's going to show some new products. You're going to see something today that nobody else has seen. George has got special permission to show us a new app and feature he's got. So if you're ATVers, stay tuned for that. Please ask us some questions. There is a delay. It's about 30 seconds. And Brendan in the studio there will pump some questions into me, and I'll get them to these guys who you can't get any better people to answer these questions. So I'm going to let Sean kick it off a little bit there. And Sean, let's introduce yourself and tell us all about what you've been up to the last 30 years.
30. I've been in the off-road industry for my entire career. I've been extremely happy about being involved in this industry, especially the off-road industry. And I've seen it evolve. I kind of cut my teeth in the Jeep, on the Jeep market with a company called Steel Horse 25 years ago. And I was a sales guy, and I'll kind of keep it short. And then I worked my way up to a brand called Smittybilt, which I think everybody's familiar with. Smittybilt 1 and Smittybilt 2. So I was with Smittybilt 1. And unfortunately, went out of business. It was, owned by a couple of guys that couldn't manage money well, and it was bought out by a company called Trans-American Auto Parts, which people may be familiar with them under the Full Parts brand. And they brought me in to run that Smittybilt brand. And so, I think that was in 2006. And so my job was to kind of resurrect that brand. So I was the president at the time. And kind of resurrect that brand, get that kind of brand as a kind of a mainstay brand within the off-road community. And at that time, that's when the 2007, 2008 recession started hitting. We positioned that brand to be very competitive, but with high quality parts. And so that brand just kind of took off. And over the course of that time, I became the president of a company called TMG. In TMG, we had Smittybilt, ProComp suspension, ProComp wheel, ProComp tire, Rubicon Express, Poison Spider, G2, LRG, and I'm probably missing a brand in there too, but I was responsible for 9 different manufacturing brands. We were doing almost $300 million a year, and then I decided to start my own business in 2018, July. It was kind of when I had the vision to get in the overland category. And so it took me, a few months to kind of get in to kind of figure out what I wanted to do in this space. I felt it was a great opportunity. I liked this side of the industry, this side of the business better. We're always focused on the hardcore off-roading, big sponsors of King of the Hammers, really getting dirty and breaking stuff constantly. And so the overlanding side was a lot easier and a lot more, less harder on your vehicle. It was really all about getting to some place and enjoying that process where, the hardcore off-roading side was really just obstacle after obstacle after obstacle after obstacle. So we started this company. I kind of had a vision in mid 2018. really kind of brought it to life last year in 2019. This is really our first full year of having kind of a full-blown product line. The brand's got a lot of traction, as you mentioned before. Kind of off camera, there's a lot of people that are familiar with us already. Very popular product line. Awning is a big staple of ours. Our goal with the brand is to make it a complete solution in the overland space. So we want to have good quality products at a very competitive price. We want to partner up with distributors and retailers like yourself that believe in quality, believe in customer service, and deliver a good overall package for the end consumer.
Well, that leads us right into the discussion of what is overlanding and how overlanding has evolved. And we were talking earlier, Sean, that overlanding, when it sort of started, it required a highly modified vehicle to get into the lifestyle, if you will. And now the manufacturers, like Jeep is, obviously crushed it in this segment forever. But their new product lines and the JL, you've got of course the Ford Raptor, you've got Subaru even making great products that you can just take off road and you can enjoy this lifestyle. You don't have to highly modify your vehicle to
not at all. I can tell you my experience the last year. I've seen our products go on minivans, Subarus. We had a BMW station wagon. We've obviously a traditional Tacoma and Jeep guys. Now the new Gladiators really opened this market up. Raptor. I happen to own a Ford Raptor, and I've always been a Ford guy. So, the Raptor guys have been involved in this for a while now, and so that's the great thing about the product is we sell awnings to not only the truck guys, but we sell them to van guys as well. So the overland being customer, the good thing about it, you don't necessarily have to have an extremely capable vehicle. You just got to be able to put something on your rig, and normally factory racks will allow you to put a rooftop tent on it with no problem. It'll bolt on easily, and then you just go find a destination you want to go to with either by yourself or with your family. Which the one thing I like about overlanding, it's very, very, very family oriented right now.
Well, we're gonna get into destinations in a minute. I'm gonna bring in George here, but meanwhile, if you're watching out there and you have a particular vehicle and you want to ask us a question, what Sean or George would recommend the application for your vehicle, now is a great time to do it. Well, welcome, George. And as the Vice President Global Sales for Warren, but you've been an industry guy forever, and I've known you for a long time, meeting at various shows. And what does it feel like to be involved with a brand as strong as Warren and as dominant as Warren? Must be fun for you.
Well, Jim, first, I think thank you for having us out here. We appreciate that. And I guess it's blessed. For me, it's kind of like a full circle thing because I got 40 plus years in our business and started stocking Warren winches in a warehouse on Long Island. So actually moving through that progression through the past 40 years has been absolutely incredible. Representing this brand is a joy for me because I know what we make and how we make it and what we stand behind. You made a comment before about how we continue to just dominate the market. One thing I was thinking about, we talked about that earlier, was, we support the product out in the field. People have our products for decades and they're repairable. We have replacement parts. We have customers that have the ability to take a winch apart, put it back together for a customer. And that stuff lives on. It's not a throwaway product. So, we like to focus on, that fact, that not only is it the highest quality, strong, plant building the product out in the States, but also the fact that we stand behind it worldwide. It doesn't matter in terms of people who overland, right? They go, some of these treks are continents long. You need to know you're going to have to get out of trouble. You're going to find somebody somewhere in the world that carries Warren, that'll support Warren. It's not a throwaway product. It's a product that's perennially the best for 72 plus years. So I think that's probably what keeps us on top. The people that make it, the fact that we have just thousands and thousands of people that support it.
Well, you're talking about materials. You mentioned technology and materials, and I'll ask either you or Sean, a synthetic rope winch versus a steel winch. Um, will steel continue? Does it have a place?
Certain, absolutely, most certainly. You know, steel in a very rough situation over rocks, like, you know, where it's going to be abrasion, you know, synthetic rope might have an issue with that. So steel, and plus old school, strong rope, industrial pieces, steel is a very important part of that business. What's happening with synthetics is addressing this marketplace, because this marketplace is about weight and conserving weight. A lot of these vehicles are going out with a lot of Sean stuff. It's loaded up to the gills. They have, you know, lots of food and coolers and weight and so on.
Yeah.
So everything that you can save would be great. And the synthetics help you do that, as well as, you know, a lot of advantages as far as like abrasion on your skin. We'll always wear gloves. And things along those lines. It has a little of elasticity. It falls to the ground if, God forbid, something happens and we have an event, right? But we recommend either or, right, Sean?
Yeah, I think to add to that, you know, I think the evolution of synthetic rope, the off-road space, has created a much better safety factor than there ever has been. You know, with steel cables, it creates kinetic energy, and when kinetic energy break, or when that steel cable is under load and it happens to break, it becomes kinetic and explodes. The advantage with synthetic is that it breaks and it just drops. And so the safety factor is 100 times better than what a steel cable would be. And that's where you start seeing the evolution from a traditional shackle to a soft shackle now. So recovery has really changed, not only with the synthetic rope, but with also the recovery gear as well. So,
and what's a soft shackle? Explain that.
Oh, I have two right here, actually. So this is a traditional recovery shackle. Okay. This is a steel rated for 4.5 tons. And this has been for 100 years, this is how recovery's been used. And now it's evolved to a soft shackle like this. And so it's 3 times lighter than steel, but the same weight capacity. This has a 45,000 pound braking strength to it. So in fact, it's actually heavier than this. The working load is a lot better as well. So as the evolution of recovery starts to happen in the winches, from going from steel cable to synthetic, and now like Cordura, which is what Warren uses, is probably the top of the line when it comes to synthetic ropes. Same thing with the recovery gear. And so everything's trying to get lighter, more compact, more capable. And it's just the evolution of off-roading. And it's good because the direction it's going, it's much safer. It's not necessarily going cheaper, it's going safer. And that's good for everybody in this space.
You bet, Sean. And on top of that, as far as safety goes now, we're actually putting a tracer thread in the Spydora, so it actually glows at night. To show that at night. That's another safety feature that can be used, you know, out there at night, not sure where things are. It's really important to have that out there. So one more innovation.
I said Spydora. I mean, I said Cordura, but it's Spydora.
Yeah, close enough.
I'm very familiar with that synthetic rope, and it's probably, like I said, it's a super nice.
Well, let's swing gears back to the tent. We're going to come back to talk about winches from an OEM standpoint, and maybe talk about some of the products that you're working with, George. But sure. On your product, Sean, and I'm talking about the awning and the tents, but the nylon material, it's described as marine grade. I am a boater, and I know the difference, say, between 304 stainless and what is it, 319 or 318?
Yeah, 416s, 204. I mean, or 220 or something. Yeah, there's a bunch of different grades of stainless out there.
And the price can double, you know, and sometimes in the cost of just the material, right? Between one grade of material to say a marine grade. But if people would be interested in how much is this package cost, those that are in the sport are, you know, they know that you get what you pay for. but that package that we have from you converted to Canadian dollars, I think the awning is the 270-degree awning is somewhere around $1,250. I think it's $899 US. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah.
And it's so well made. I was so impressed by the aluminum box structure and the actual nylon itself. So tell me about that.
We, we started off with, the objective to try to get a 270-degree awning. It's certainly not the cheapest out there, but I feel we're probably the best awning out there. One of the advantages that we have with that awning, before I get into the construction of it, is it can be used without poles, and that is probably one of the most critical things out there. The convenience of deploying this awning can be done in less than a minute. It's really, really simple, and it can handle anywhere from 20 to 30-mile winds without deploying the poles that are already on it. And because of that, it's the construction that we use. We use boxed aluminum frame rafters with brass fittings on it. And everything is, like you said, marine grade stainless. I think there's one steel component on that awning. For the most part, it's all marine grade quality. And why you want to choose marine grade quality, because one of the key features to that is you don't want to worry about rust. You don't want to worry about corrosion. And we start with a 600D ripstop material, which is heavy duty, as you mentioned. When you touch it and feel it, it's not like what these traditional awning manufacturers have used. This is a really substantial product that we use the same material in our tents. And so we didn't try to cut any corners when we built this. The brackets, the way it integrates onto either a factory rack system or a bed rack or whatever you're putting it on. We try to make it so it integrates very simple with the installation, with the brackets that we include. You don't show it here, but we also have walls available for this. And so you can actually enclose this whole thing in. So it's like 110 square feet of space as it is now. And then you add the wall system to it, you end up getting almost 150 feet of coverage. It's pretty significant. And everything, like I said, deploys in under a minute. So be able to get that kind of coverage deployed that quickly with that kind of quality, that's why, a $900 US price point is on it.
Well, I'm going to tell you that I was really impressed with it, and I never even gave it any second thought. Then I did give it a second thought and go, that's why you make a passenger side and a driver side optional awning, because this would make a great awning system on the side of a van or on somebody's trailer that always has the exit door is always on what we call the passenger side, right?
Yeah, well, passenger side was, all right, let's build them. Let's see if we could sell them. And that passenger side has turned out to be one of our best sellers. It surprised us.
Yeah.
And as we talked earlier offline, we have more van guys buying our passenger side product than we've ever expected. I never would have thought I would have had a conversation with a Sprinter van guy or an E350 Econo van guy about an awning. But now it's amazing with that passenger. It's really opened up a whole new market.
I learned something recently that I never thought about to do with awnings and propane stoves, that let's say if you are buying a camper or a trailer configuration, you can't get a UL certification to have the awning above a propane stove. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And then, but maybe I shouldn't ask you the question, but I want my stove covered. I don't want to be standing out in the rain cooking my barbecue.
Right.
So outside of, if I feel safe from the fume standpoint of the buildup of gas, but what about the actual fire, let's say, resistance to burning that material?
It's a good question. I wish I could answer that right this second, but I can get back with you on it. I'm not sure what the fire retardant testing is done. I know our material, our tent material has to go through it. Our mattress cover, our mattress has to go through it. I just don't know what that requirement is right this second in front of me.
Well, there's on the screen there, this is about 10 years ago. This is me camping. This is my overland style there. but I always struggled because I had a couple of wave runners and I would want to pull the wave runners, and then of course you can't pull a trailer. So I did one of these bed tents, and then I'd have this tent. When you start adding up all the pieces that you need there, that awning on the side of a van or on a rack system, man, it would have just been a lifesaver. But I think on that fire question, probably the best answer is don't do it. I mean, it's going to burn, I'm sure.
Well, no, I think everybody does do it. You know, that's the challenge. You know, I have a King disc. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with it or not. And it puts out a pretty substantial flame. You're not going to want to barbecue underneath it. But if you're got a little Coleman stove and you're warming up something, I mean, I think it's being responsible and aware of your environment. That's kind of standard off-roading 101. It's just be responsible and aware of your environment. And I expect the same from any overlander enthusiast would be doing the same thing.
So that material, this marine grade poly cotton, or is that what it's called?
Yeah.
All the welds are all heat sealed.
Yeah.
I noticed that. What do you think is a reasonable expectation? By the way, the cover that it comes in, that stuff is thick. So that what you ship with that
1000G PVC cover. So, and it's all heat sealed on top of that, and sonic welded together. So that thing is durable and bulletproof. You won't get any moisture or water through that thing at all.
This stuff, you know, this sport is expensive. The system we have here in the showroom, now I got to say, is the best of everything in terms of what OVS has to offer for the awning and the tent. The rack system is a well-known brand in Yakima, but Canadian dollars altogether, we have it packaged. You can actually see it if you go to skip the showroom on any F-150. I think it's $5,400. That's a lot of money. And customers are going to want to build this, include this in their payments, and terms are getting longer than ever. Do you feel comfortable that with proper care and maintenance and being used regularly, that somebody could get 5 to 6 years life out of this?
Oh, easy. Yeah, we put a 4-year warranty on it, and that's based on pretty hardcore use. Wow. And so your factory warranty, I don't know what it is in the U.S. or in Canada, but a factory warranty is 3 year 36.
Same here,
but, yeah. And then your powertrain. So it surpasses the warranty that you guys offer on a vehicle. And I think if you guys offer the package, you could probably do something on an extended warranty with it, as well as include it with the vehicle. But most importantly for us, that is the longest warranty in the industry. No one else offers a warranty like ours. Usually it's a 1 year to 2 year warranty, but we believe strongly that we've chosen the right materials to build the best product out there. If you look at the tent, we talk about how thick the material is and what that's made of, and having it all heat sealed. But the base, we start with the frame of that tent where it's all diamond plate, which is not normal in a rooftop tent construction. That even makes it even much more robust. That is a wear point on those tents, so being up and damaged pretty easily, and we wanted to make sure we address that. So,
what would the base be made by competitors? Is it plastic? Is it?
I mean, 95% of the tent guys out there use a very thin aluminum sheet metal, and I'm trying to figure out what you would be most familiar with. Oh, like the frame, maybe the frame of like a light, like a fluorescent light. The industrial lights where they have this kind of perforated aluminum metal. It's just lightweight. It really is designed to protect aesthetically, and what's inside there is your insulation. So we have a urethane insulation there to try to retain either heat or coolness for the passengers inside. But like I said, the base is super high end compared to everybody else. And as you mentioned, marine grade stainless. We're using marine grade 304 stainless, or it's an aircraft grade aluminum, either a 5051 or greater. And so the product we feel is the best in the best. There's a couple of options out there in soft tents, but I don't think anybody out there and for the price and the quality that you get can come close to what we're doing.
And it's you have a great distribution network with your partners at the distribution network I'm using. I mean, that stuff is expensive to ship, and that's one of the issues we face as Canadians is there's the shipping costs, there's the brokerage fees and all that stuff. But
bring up an excellent point from a kind of a business model standpoint. You have to partner up with somebody, and we partnered up with Keystone, which a lot of you guys, it's probably not a well-known retail name, but they are the largest automotive aftermarket supplier in the business. And we did that because we felt we needed to have next day delivery on all our products anywhere in the US and in Canada. And they deliver on that. All our products are stocked in every single warehouse. As you mentioned, you can order a tent today and have it delivered to you tomorrow. And powerful partnership for us from an Overland Vehicle standpoint. They deliver on service, on warehousing and logistics. It's up to us to make sure we develop the brand, make a good product, and partner up with a company like them to deliver the product quickly to anybody in the US. That's either from a consumer standpoint or from a B2B standpoint.
Well, let's, if I wanted to go to a show, I wanted to travel, and I wanted to just be blown away by the selection and the lifestyle of Overland. What's the show in North America that's a must see?
The Overland Expo. And
Okay.
I think, last year, it's in May. I think last year was May 18th. It was about this time. It's the Overland Expo show in Flagstaff, Arizona. And last year was their biggest event. And I'll give you a comparison. 3 or 4 years ago, they would have 100 vendors, 3,000 or 4,000 people. And then, fast forward to last year, they had almost 400 vendors and 20,000 people attend this event. And great thing about this event is that you get to see every aspect of overlanding, from earth roamers on 47-inch tires down to the Subaru guy putting a rooftop tent on it, and everything in between. So you can get cooking, you can get information on cooking products, camping, tent, recovery. Every major brand in the off-road space is there that's committed to Overland. Warren is there, Apple, we're obviously there. But there's also off-road experiences where I teach you how to do recovery. There's a company called 7P that runs the recovery section there. So you can take your vehicle on, you can repairs, and they'll teach you basic winching and recovery information. So it's beyond just a kind of information show, it's a learning show. The experiences that consumers have that go there, they talk about it every year. It's a really great destination for anybody that's interested in the space you want, continue to want to learn about it.
Where do ATVs fit in the space of overlanding?
ATVs?
Yeah.
I think more importantly, ATVs I can't speak of. The UTV side is starting to expand. They are, they've got obviously Razors and the Can-Ams, but Claire developed the General. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that one or not, but that is a designated, was designated to be a overlanding rig. And so I know they've taken several attempts at building overland rigs in the side-by-side market to address that. ATV, I think it would work. It's kind of put what you have set up and pull a trailer, go pretty much anywhere. Kind of circling back between traditional camping and overlanding. Traditional camping, you're stuck at a park. You may have the ability in some cases to get off grid, but a lot of times you don't. Where with the overlanding, you can go off grid. You can go, you can basically go anywhere you want, where you couldn't necessarily go with like a bumper pull trailer. And so so you can pretty much, your possibilities are endless on an ATV or a UTV.
Well, George, you mentioned earlier you were stocking the warehouse in Long Island. I get that little hint of that Long Island access that just makes me think of the Islanders and all the Stanley Cup years. I cringe. But now you live in California.
Mike Bossy was my personal hero.
Well, that man had a
sorry about that.
So you live in California, and we're just Sean was just talking about the UTVs. from your end of things, I know, and from our store, your line of winches, the Axon winches, I mean, there you go. You're dominating that marketplace. And tell us from your perspective, this overlanding trend or getting off-road or off the grid, what are you seeing in terms of your sales? Is it being reflected in winches that you're selling more for UTVs or?
Yeah. So we see that we continually see that growing. The interesting thing about the Axon product is that it's been developed, you know, as a all-in-one waterproof solution, minimal amount of wiring. The contactor, where you had a traditional ATV winch, the contactor was mounted separately. There was a lot of wiring, twice the amount of installation, more chance of failure. We took this product year before, I'm sorry, at SEMA, put it in a fishbowl and ran it for 4 days straight. So it's just a wonderful product as far as sealing and waterproof and so on. But a nice offshoot about this, we're talking about, you know, small CUV, you know, out there, you know, overlanding. And I heard the word Subaru a few times. You know, this thing works great on a Subaru. We're finding applications for some of the smaller CUVs, so much so that we've now started to offer installation kits for Outbacks, Crosstreks, and Foresters, late model, that use this 5,500-pound winch. It's absolutely kind of revolutionizing that thing, because nobody thought you could put a winch on something that small, if you will, where you're going to mount it. But since this is like a little powerhouse in here, it actually has more than just an application in the power sports world. The mount kits, we also, you know, we make those as well. And, you know, up in our plant up in Oregon, and it's starting to take off very nicely as people start to get acclimated to that. We're getting on some of the Subaru posts and so on and so forth, and people are starting to talk and find the product.
Yeah, we noticed over at Bad Dog, we're starting to do some lift kits on these small crossovers now. And
absolutely,
it's interesting. You mentioned the capacity there. That brings me to a question that maybe either yourself or Sean want to take a shot at. So if I have I'm driving a Super Duty Tremor. It's a crew cab, it's diesel, it's the heaviest example you're going to get. So what should I be how should I be choosing my winch based on, is the weight of the vehicle is a really significant fact? Does it depend on how I intend to use it? How do you choose the winch capacity?
Well, I mean, you know, we have an incredible staff of engineers that they test the winches that go on the trucks, how they're going to perform, what's right, what's wrong. We over test, which is, you know, should be a level of comfort for all consumers out there. We recommend no less than 1.5 times, okay? On truck applications, it's important. So you have a big Super Duty. I'd say that thing weighs about 8,000 pounds, Jim, loaded. US
87, 8,800 pounds.
8,700. So you're going to be in there for one of our 16.5s or one of our 15s, you know, to be comfortable. Okay. So 1.5 times. And of course, there's other things that you can do to increase the pulling capacity of your winch. Okay. Whether it's snatch blocks to double the weight that you can pull, although it cuts the speed in half.
Can you show us your snatch block there, Sean?
Yeah.
Talking about? And so this doubles the capacity essentially because you're using two sides of the rope.
Right. Basic physics, you're making a V, you know, backing over in it. And so it'll pull twice as much weight, but it works at half the speed, right? But, if you're tough, there you go.
Yeah. And you would use this with traditional shackle.
There you go.
And so you would run the rope through it. This D-ring would attach to the snatch block, and then you would have your tow strap or tree saver or vehicle mounted to the other side of this. So, so this is been around for a long time. I'm going to can I interject in here, George? I don't want to show the evolution of this. This is all steel components, and we sell an absolute ton of these things. But the new, popping out of the camera, but the new pulley system is now this. So this is your soft shackle, and then this is a recovery ring, which comes out and essentially does the exact same thing, but it's got 1,000 times safety factor. There is a lot of load, like George mentioned, that doubles your winch capacity by putting a snatch block on. Now this actually does the exact same thing and reduces your safety factor by 1,000. This is, or increases your safety factor by 1,000 by doing and working the exact same way. And it's lighter, heavier, and it doesn't make a lot of clunking. Well, especially if you're a guy that throws all your gear in your back, last thing you want is all these metal parts rattling around. So as an option. So
I'd say, well, we try to tell customers that if you're buying a winch and you're installing your winch on the vehicle, you have to budget for a recovery kit, because the winch is essentially useless without it, and very dangerous if you don't have the right equipment.
Terribly important.
Yeah. And that's why they come in nice, convenient bags, and and weight does become a factor in space in a vehicle. I think the way you just showed me there, Sean, that looks like that actually would save some space using that system over and weight, I would presume, over having those big D rings and etc. Do you have any, Sean, in terms of that UTV? Sorry, George. Go ahead.
I just one other thing. When you're talking about these recovery kits, we're out there in the woods, right? We're out there, winching to winch points and places where, it's not normal, where there's going to be abrasions. There's not going to be, wire ropes wrapped around and pulled. You want to save that environment, if you will. Okay. So having the right recovery equipment, having tree straps and things along those lines, is important, not only to do it safely, but to protect the environment as well. I think it's important to bring that up.
Well, there's spots all over the world, but in Ontario here, I think about the Halliburton Forest, and there's some pretty rare original white pines, and
right, exactly.
You don't want to tear one of those down or damage the tree or
do it right
or kill it. That would be part of the tread lightly and part of respecting the environment, which I think everybody in the sport does a great job with. And that's I would encourage people out there who are thinking about getting into this industry. I think we got some questions coming through that I want to talk, but people that want to get into this industry, really get a hold of some clubs and
that's exactly it.
Get some information. And I think I have one right here that in Ontario, there's a great club, and I can, if you don't mind, I'll take the time to share that screen if I can find that. And you'll find lots of information there, and the opportunity to get educated and go out, say, on like a rookie run, if I can say that. I'm trying to bring this up here, what I did with this, but
there's a lot. The great thing about clubs, while you're looking that up, is that everybody has a breadth of knowledge, and everybody's at different levels of off-roading or overlanding in those clubs. So the good thing is everybody gets together, they get to share their experience, share more importantly, best practices when it comes to off-roading, and they provide their own recommendations. And so, being involved in an off-road club, I think, is absolutely, especially when you're just starting out, is a great way to learn, understand local trails, and understand when runs are now.
If you can see it, can you see that on there? OF 4-wheel drive, and so that's for you. Those of you that live in Ontario here, that's a great resource to reach out and find people and get out there and enjoy this lifestyle and events. What about from with the two of yours experience? If I wanted to take a road trip when this all gets over, and we're hoping our Crown Land, we're hoping opens up in the next week or two. By the way, guys, it's about the same temperature here in Ontario as it is down there in sunny California. So I got my coat off today, and we all want to see this thing get over soon. But where are some of the best places that you have ever been for overlanding experience? Sean, I'll ask you that.
The overlanding, as an example, was they didn't even call it overlanding, but on this, the Rubicon Trail, which is California, Northern California, is by far the most epic trail you can go on. George, I think you might have been on it, but it's about an 8-hour trail. It's a 19-mile trail, but it takes you about 8 hours to get halfway through it, and it is wheeling in. And everybody brings their own camping gear, so they're either pulling a trailer, believe it or not, which is a pretty intense trail, or they have a rooftop tent, or they're pitching tents when they're getting there. But that is a pretty epic experience, and that is done by Jeepers Jamboree, And so you can do that independently, or you can go on a group. They have 3 or 4 major weekends where you just pay, they cover the food, and basically take care of you. And you're there next to a giant lake and a pond, and it's just a really amazing experience. I don't think I could ever duplicate the Rubicon Trail. What can come close is Moab, Utah, which by far is probably have the most diverse off-roading there, and the views that go for miles, and that can be as easy as you want it to be, or difficult, depending on your capabilities. And so between those two, for me personally, those have been kind of the best. We have our local stuff here in Southern California, mostly desert stuff, and so if you're used to the desert, then the desert's a great place to go hang out.
That probably explains the Raptor, does it, Sean?
Yeah, exactly.
And what about you, George?
So I can agree with Sean on Moab, because for me, that's probably the most spectacular, visually incredibly beautiful trails you've ever seen in your life. A lot of red rocks, vehicles must be capable. Unquestionably, but it's starting to gravitate. It's always been a great camping area, Moab, Utah. Now you see more of this more aggressive overlanding, people taking them out onto the trails instead of just staying parked. So I see that, but most recently, I would say the thing that I enjoyed the most was King of the Hammers out here, which is a race, right, with all the radical racers and that stuff. It's a week-long event. There's UTVs, there's ATVs, there's trophy trucks. There's everything in between, the 4400 series, which is like an incredible event. But it goes from a dry lake bed in Southern California, Johnson Valley, that has nothing in it, to, I don't know if there was 40 or 50 or 60,000 people out there this year, dry camping at this event. So this is the first time we took this vehicle out. That's our new vehicle here. And it's been a lot of fun out there, to say the least. There's all of these people. It's an incredible off-road event. People are enthusiast-based as well as family-based, and they're camping every night and barbecuing every night and around the campfire every night and enjoying racing during the day, or going out their side-by-sides or the trucks during the day. It's an absolute fantastic event for a week. But it's solid, dry camping. There is nothing.
There's, all of us have been in this together. I know, talking to you two fellas, that the restrictions that you're living with right now in California, they sound like pretty much exactly the same as we have in Southern Ontario in terms of the schools and the businesses and, what's going on. And it is starting to open up for all of us slowly. But I think that we're looking at a change to our family future in terms of where our vacation funds are going to be. So, I sell new vehicles for a living. Of course, I'd love to sell new vehicles, but let's talk about people who already have vehicles. They've already owned them. And I'm a Ford guy, so I'm going to pick Ford vehicles just because I want generic representative, because we know Jeeps are fantastic off-road capability. We know Ford's got the Bronco coming out. We know about the F-150. Let's say a family that has an Explorer. What is the opportunity to take a family, say 2 kids under 10, and enjoy the outdoors in an overlanding style with an Explorer?
It's super easy, actually. The step of just being able to get the vehicle, like I said, we've seen our products installed on minivans and cars. There was a guy that tagged us, that had a Porsche, a 911 Porsche, that put a tent on his rig. And so the barrier to entry is so low for a consumer to get into landing. You can take an Explorer, you can take any of your smaller crossovers and bolt a tent on it. We have different size tents, so you can go from kind of a small, medium, to large, depending on the vehicle or depending on the family. And the weight isn't that much. And so, I think the heaviest tent we have weighs about 175 pounds. Our lightest weighs about 100. And so so it'll never maximize the factory crossbar load rating. So it's just really a matter of determining what's going to suit the family's needs. The installation's super easy. These things will bolt right onto factory crossbars. And so the biggest time really is pulling out of the box, getting it kind of set up. And then once you bolt it on, all you end up doing, like in the case of like the tent that you have on that, it's got a travel cover that you just pull off and deploy it. And once the travel cover's off, you guys did it. It would take less than 30 seconds to open the thing.
Yeah.
And it really is pretty simple and easy. It doesn't require any experience whatsoever to be in overlanding. The objective is, depending on where you're going, just have a rooftop tent and some food, water, and an ice chest in the back. And I think after that point, the customers will go figure it out after that. They can evolve that an awning. They can evolve it maybe a 12-volt refrigerator and everything in between.
What about that load capacity? That I hear people are concerned about that, and I feel confident I can explain it, but I'll want to hear it come from your mouth. When you have, let's say, a roof rack that the factory says has a 200-pound capacity, that capacity refers to the weight you can put on it and tear down the highway. It doesn't refer to the weight that you can put on it.
Excellent point. I have a ton of conversations with customers about this as well. So there's a static and a dynamic weight. And the dynamic weight, it's like recovery. And I'll walk you through that in a second, but recovery is very similar. Dynamic weight, for example, a factory load bar is rated for 200 pounds or 250. Typically, what that means is, to your point, it's jamming down the road. They rate that based on what the potential weight could be if someone has to slam on their brakes. So there's a 3 times load factor that comes into play with any factory or aftermarket crossbars. And so if a crossbar is rated for 200 pounds, that means that the static weight, not dynamic, static weight is 600 pounds. And so you've got 600 pounds, so you can put a 100-pound tent on it, and then 500 pounds of people inside of it. And so that's kind of how it works. And then in the recovery, it's the same way. You may see something that's rated for 45,000 pounds, like one of our recovery rings, but the working load on that is somewhere around 15,000. And so that's how it works with anything when it comes to static weight and dynamic weight.
Okay. And if you, George, let's use this average family that wasn't thinking about overlanding and camping prior to this pandemic. They have this Explorer. It's got a trailer hitch, and you've got a great hitch-mounted winch that people could carry with them, and so you don't have to have a mounted on the front of the vehicle. Tell us about that.
No, so there's a there's a cradle that would go into your 2-inch receiver in the back of the vehicle, so you wouldn't have that permanent winch mounted on the front of that Explorer. That's some of those people aesthetically may not want that. Some of the other vehicles that are out there in the same classification may be a little bit up. We have some semi-hidden kits which look kind of nice. They're concealed behind the front bumper, but you can take that product, slide the cradle into the rear receiver hitch, and then we have some wires that you run from your leads and your battery, run them down through the frame of the vehicle with quick connects. So you can easily connect it in, winch out of trouble, winch through whatever you want to do, pull whatever you need to pull, okay, and then easily take it out and then store it on the inside. That product's been around for quite some time and will probably be around for a lot longer. And
and I'll just for people out there that are complete newbies or maybe watching this somewhere down the line on YouTube. So why would you do that? Well, if you truly want to experience what it's like, if you've never had the opportunity to have your kids experience what it's like to be off the grid and out in nature and away from everything, and any concerns about any wildlife or anything, the rooftop tent takes care of that. And you leave a very limited footprint on the ground, and you can clean up, hurry when a rainstorm comes. But bringing that winch with you that you were just talking about, you might find yourself in a tough area and you might miss a really good experience based on your fear that I might get stuck. But if you knew a little bit about winching, if you'd watched a couple of videos, if you'd asked people who know and you pick up one of your products, it's a safety barrier that, hey, I know my family is safe and we're not going to get stuck out in the middle of nowhere.
That's right.
I've got my tree strap. I've got my, the shackles and all the safety gear that I need, and I can get myself back out of trouble because it's
two things to add to that, if you think about the cost of a winch, and I don't know what they're Canadian, it's probably the cheapest insurance policy you can buy to ensure that you have an opportunity to cover. And so if you look at it from just that perspective, the cost isn't that much. And then the second part of it is it's actually fun. I mean, there is a lot of trails that are designed for you to winch on. And so can't be afraid of it. You have to own it and use it. It's anything. It's like a good tool in your bag, and that winch is a great tool. Warren makes the best winch on the market, and that I think you have to use it as a tool and not be afraid to use it. And so, and I think that's where I would hope, if you're a newbie and you're getting into it, that it's the adrenaline when you go over an obstacle that you weren't sure about. You know what I mean? And you were kind of talking about that a little earlier. And every time you just kind of push your capabilities a little bit more, and you're surprised how far you can go, and more importantly, how far your vehicle can go, because people really underestimate the capability of their vehicle.
Great. Well, good points. George, we teased everybody to hear about new product, and we were kind of touching on UTVs and ATVs. And you're going to, behind the curtain there, you're going to show us the 2021 Bronco that you have all customized here. No.
Boy, I so want to show you that, Jim, but unfortunately Ford won't allow it. You know how they work.
But what do you got to show us? What exciting news do you got from Warren that people would be interested in?
Well, I'll show you. So I just want to show you. So this little item right here, I hope everybody can see that. Okay, so that's a hub. And our company was founded in 1948 by Arthur Warren, right? So we're 72 years old. And this was the first product that we made. So this went on the end of a Jeep, and it was a lock-in, lock-out hub, so you could freewheel down the highway, save gas, and have it a little more, let's say, streetable. 72 years later, and our engineering team's been working super, super hard on this product for quite some time now. And it's about, it's close. I'd say by the end of the year, we're gonna have it, maybe sooner. But it's called a hub. So we're going to reinvent the hub 72 years later. And the reason why we're calling it the hub is because it has basically a hub of information for you. So if you guys will humor me just for a moment, I'll get it up on my phone. If my lovely assistant, March, turn on the side-by-side. Okay. So I want to show you how it works. Hang on. So you'd be download and let's see, what do we got here? Hopefully you guys can all see that. Okay, so right there is our hub application. And March, turn it on. And hopefully you can see that that product is now connected. You guys got that? Jim, nod if you could.
Yeah.
Okay. It's hard for me to hear right now. All right, so you can see that we have the weight that we pull, we have what we're drawing on volts, and we also have temp. Gloves, please. Okay. We don't mess around.
That's cool.
We don't mess around. So I hope you guys can see the axon, okay? And I'm just gonna try to do this. I'm going to unlock this, and I'm going to spool out, and I'm going to spool back in.
And I can obviously do that inside the vehicle, but how far away could I be potentially? About 50 feet?
I was playing with this, it seemed at 75, 50 feet away, people were getting scared.
Okay.
I was having too much fun with them. But it's absolutely a revolutionary piece.
Cool.
We are so happy to be finally, if you turn it off, baby girl? If you can imagine, how many hours of blood and sweat, this is what makes our company our company. It's the engineering, it's the innovation. It's taking this, and this is, we're not going to stop here. You can be darn sure of that. We're going to keep pushing that forward and forward and forward. But you guys are the first in Canada. I always had an affinity up there. You know, I didn't have the opportunity to say it, but it was nice hearing Sean talk about Keystone, because I worked there for 22 years before he purchased Warren, and he had the wrap down almost as good as I did. And I'm pretty happy to hear that. It just put a smile on my face.
Well,
Well, you know, George, I didn't get the pitch from Keystone about it.
I know, Sean. That's the best part of this. That
Really
is the absolute best part.
That's the partnership that they bring to the table. So.
Absolutely. And, you know, it's, again, you know, I'm just blessed being able to do what I do with the company. But, you know, starting with Canada, when I first started with the organization, I have responsibility for 3 buildings. One of them was a little place up there at 6 Points with about 10, 12 associates. And that place has grown into,
I don't want to bore the people at home, but that George, you just said that my dad immigrated to Canada from England in 1957, and his first job was working at 6 Points Plaza at the Dominion stores there. So that's pretty wild.
The big ups to the team.
I want to mention on Warren products that everybody knows you for your winches. Well, everybody knows you really for your hubs and your winches. But I want to speak from as a Ford dealership and then as a modification shop. Your 4X flares are just simply awesome flares.
Thank
you. We like to feature those on. We've been installing a lot of flares and building a lot of units, and so they're just great product there. So, and people may not be aware that you have those flares, and they're called Warren 4X. I don't want to run out of time because we want to talk a little bit about your OEM stuff, and I want to get back to Sean of what he's got new. So Warren Winch factory, so the F-150 or the Super Duty trimmer package, I've heard that's coming with a winch, and it's supposed to be in the fall. I get it, everything's reversed back, but that's coming, right?
It's pretty exciting, to say the very least. These are long labors of love for the organization. But yeah, we debuted the product at SEMA this past year on a beautiful tremor, a nice blue one. Hopefully it'll be out there, you know, by the end of the year to the consumer marketplace. We're all teed up for it. We have been testing with Ford and learning a lot with them, as well as they're learning from us. And it's been a wonderful, wonderful partnership, and it's going to lead to lots more for the organization. But right now, we're just all anticipating to get that thing out there, Jim, so you can put one of those on your truck.
I'm sorry, George, but there's my beautiful tremor with a Warren winch already on it.
I appreciate the business, Jim. Don't think I get that wrong, but we'll get the next one then. We'll just get the next one.
And so other OEM relationships, I don't want to ask you if the Bronco is going to have a factory Warren winch option available, because you wouldn't be allowed to say that. But I'll say that I've heard that, and I'll say that the Bronco wants to compete with Jeep. And does Jeep have a factory Warren affiliation, or is it a dealer installed option, or is it sold through Mopar, or how's that work?
On the Jeep side of the business, we do work with FCA, as well as we do work with FCA on the Power Wagon product, on the larger Power Wagon products. So, you know, going through all that rigorous testing and stuff, again, we learn a lot. And obviously we have the credibility to stand in front of anybody's vehicle by doing that.
Yeah. Well, that one on the tremor, the bumper is a factory bumper, right? And you offset the fair lead and you fit it between the frame rails?
It's an absolute phenomenal job by the guys in the shop. Just a great team. They offset the piece. And when you live this and they do something that revolutionary, you get excited about it. We live it every day. But you know, from what ideas and drawings and iterations and so on and so forth, they came up with that offset fair lead. You can plug the remote right into the front of the fair lead now. It just looks great too. So kudos to the team, and I look forward to it.
Let me, I just have to ask you guys this question. I'm getting from as a Ford dealer standpoint, I mean, it's just nonstop questions about the Bronco. Is it just me, or is there a lot of incredible amount of interest waiting for this product to come out?
I want it now. I look forward to seeing it, selling products for it, and I'd love it. It just looks so great, and it's, you know, there's been some delays, and that's fine, but I'm sure when it's released, there's a ton of pent-up demand. I know you feel the same way, Sean. There's a lot of it out there.
Yeah. Well, I think from my perspective, this is the first year that I've seen Ford be as active in tracking down partners. to support that launch in an accessory program, more so than I've ever seen before. They really want to diversify that product and address maybe gaps that they may be missing to compete with Jeep. And so, so I think the accessory side, more importantly, the capability of that vehicle and the accessories that go along with it, I think will be probably one of the biggest launches that they've done and collaborated in terms of having factory authorized parts to go with it.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I don't think Jeep's taking it lying down. I think Jeep's doing a fine job. That Gladiator's done a good job out there and created a great new market. They've done a fantastic job. I think as consumers, everybody benefits. I think everybody's getting challenged.
Well, the more, last thing, for the more the OEs tend to focus on this lifestyle brand vehicle. Jeep obviously pioneered it, and now kind of breaking into the truck. The biggest competitor to Jeep today is the Tacoma in terms of active lifestyle, and them continuing to evolve and build that product, and then having the Colorado and now the Ranger and now the Bronco, just focusing more on this active lifestyle. And it's really, really good for stores like you and brands like us, because it's only going to get bigger.
Well, we're as a Ford dealer, that's we of course we dominate with F-Series trucks, F-150, and that's fair to say. And it's super capable, but that the tightness, and if you want to do this sport at the extreme level, if that's to a hobby level, you need something that's going to be very agile with low the front and rear hangovers, the angle of departure angle, etc., so that you don't get your tailpipe hung up. You need something that can do that. You need limited slip, both front and rear diffs, right? And we know that that's coming. We're excited to have that independent front suspension. But I'm gonna move off that topic, because I wanted to ask you, Sean, just before we go. Your website is Overland Vehicle Systems. I have your product on display here for a short time. If people in the area want to come and see it, of course we're going to be promoting it and selling it, and I'm very proud of our relationship to be able to sell your brand. But is there anything new for you that you would like us to point out that you're coming out with?
Well, we actually have quite a few products. Our brands, our Overland, our OVS line focuses on rooftop tents and awnings, recovery, and cargo management. And cargo management for us is an area of opportunity. And so you mentioned Yakima. You guys are using Yakima, and they're a great product. And actually, I use Yakima on my vehicles as well. But we're coming up with a new rack system. We're having our first production sample. It'll be in my hands in a couple weeks. But it's going to be, I feel, revolutionary in terms of the rack market. We're going to have built-in lights that are going to be included in it. It's going to be modular and adjustable. It'll fit multiple applications. It's just really going to be a super nice product, and it's going to be made out of aluminum, so it's going to be lightweight. And then it'll address either a mid-size truck or full-size truck application. To me, that's super important for us, is we want to control almost every aspect of the Overland experience. And when we have to rely on somebody else to supply a rack, we feel like we lose a little bit of that control. So our whole objective.
You think aluminum's good, Sean?
I think aluminum's great. I think
might make a good truck if you build your truck out of aluminum.
Oh, I see how you walked me into that. Yes. Aluminum's great. I think it's, I think the capabilities today that you can build aluminum products compared to, 5 years ago, even 10 years ago, is 9 day different. And so
we find that in our marketplace, it doesn't matter how good the powder coater is, steel rusts in our climate, flat out. And you just need to tell the customer, okay, you're going to have to keep this painted and stay on top of this. And so aluminum, we like to stress high quality, good quality aluminum products. If you want to survive for a long time in our climate.
Yeah, our goal is to have a long-term relationship with the consumer, and so today they buy a roof, and maybe a month from now or a year from 2 years from now, they might buy an awning, or they might buy a recovery product from us. And so we don't want to jeopardize that long-term relationship. So we really want to focus on long-term quality parts. And so everything we're focused on is making sure that that experience that customer has with our product is the best we can possibly give them.
Well, if you're ever in Ontario, Sean, and of course, George, you're more than familiar, you know your way around here, but make sure you come and see us, and more so if you'd like to see some of the great places we have to offer, because we have some of the most stunning scenery, but I would recommend July and August as your prime time to visit.
Understood.
And it's been a great afternoon having you both here. I really appreciate you taking the time. It's Friday. It's a precious part of our time that we're about to get some freedom and maybe get this COVID-19 thing at least under control, if not get it licked.
Yep.
And why not, as far as overlanding, let's call it extreme social distancing. And I can't wait to get out and try some of it. I'd like to put your products through their paces. And I had the pleasure of pulling somebody out of the ditch with your winch there already this winter in a wicked snowstorm. So,
well, not good for them. Glad it worked.
Yeah, he thought I stopped and I was going to help push him. And I said, sir, I'm not pushing anything. We're out of the way. So great, guys. Appreciate both here. If you have any other comments, I'll give you that opportunity. But Sean?
No, Jim, great to be part of this. We appreciate it. And we're here for you. So if there's anything you need or your customers need, just let us know.
Awesome. Very impressive. And thanks again. George, as always, I appreciate it. Great to see you. Stay healthy.
Likewise, sir. Likewise, sir. Thanks so much for having us. And, we're just thrilled that we're still up there pushing after all these years, and we're going to continue to innovate and keep ourselves first. Thank you.
Well, if we can all make it to SEMA this year, I could use one of those awnings out in the desert there at 120 degrees.
Yeah, exactly.
I hope to see you both there, and I'll make sure I look you both up. So stay safe, everybody, and thank you out there for watching.
Thanks, everybody.
All right.
Thank you.
Take care.